Hello everyone, this is Paul Fatahi from Exchange. Thank you for joining us. We are still waiting for a few more people. Let's give them a minute or two just in case they're just arriving. I know sometimes GoToMeeting, if you don't have it installed before, it takes a little longer than people usually expect to install the app and get going. So if you don't mind, let's give them a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. Thank you. Okay. Again, thank you for joining us. And my name is Paul Fatahi. I'm Director of Sales and Marketing for Exchange. And today we will be taking you through an overview of Exchange. What is Exchange? Why is Exchange in existence? Who needs it? And how it works. We will navigate around your Exchange account. We'll go over some of the housekeeping tabs such as profile, password, email notifications, and so on. Then I'll show you how to create sub-accounts for different people, or if they have different locations. You can create sub-accounts with their own login and passwords. And then how do you connect to the vendors that are on Exchange? Finally, your price list and how you place orders and promotions, and last but not least, your history page and accounting. An overview of Exchange. What is Exchange? Basically, Exchange is a business-to-business platform, and it's very important to remember that it's a business-to-business. So your customers, as resellers, you're the resellers. Your customers do not know about Exchange. They do not interact with Exchange. They probably don't even care about Exchange or how it exists and how they get the code. What they do care about is that they're interacting with you, the reseller, and they're asking for a certain product, and that you can provide that product to them quickly and efficiently, and they can have it right away, basically. On the other side, we have the vendors that provide these products to you. So it's basically from vendors to resellers. So it's a business to business, and the end customer does not interact with Exchange. They don't pay Exchange. They pay you, the reseller. So it's a business to business platform, and it's 24 hours a day. It's basically up and running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with no geographical limitations. So you could be anywhere in the world, and your vendor could be anywhere in the world. And at any time during the day or at night, you can have a customer that places an order, and you can get that product and give it to your customer without having to wait for Monday morning. Let's say, for example, you have an order on Friday evening, and the company is closed, the vendor is closed until Monday morning, and let's say there's some kind of a holiday on Monday as well, you have to wait for Tuesday. Some of these companies are small companies and they might be on vacation, now you have to wait even longer and so on. You don't have to do any of that. You can get it right away at any time, any day. So how does it work? There are two types of accounts, and as I mentioned before, we have the vendors on one side, and these are the companies that sell their products, sell their serial numbers, and we have the resellers, which are your type of accounts. Basically, we have two different accounts: reseller account, which is you, and the vendor account. And the resellers buy these licenses, serial numbers, registration codes, whatever that each vendor calls these, and you sell that to your customers. You resell that to your customers. Now, the way that it works is that the vendors are basically in control of who can sell their products. They create their accounts, they create their product profiles, they set their own prices, they upload their own serial numbers, and they connect with the resellers. So Exchange doesn't determine prices. Exchange doesn't determine which products you have access to as a reseller and which products you don't, or which brands and so on. Exchange doesn't determine which promotions you, the reseller, have access to. It's all decided by the vendor. Now, as a reseller, of course, you have the option of working with a reseller, with a certain vendor or not. So you don't have to work with all the vendors that are on Exchange. So you also have the option of working with a certain brand or not, and sell a certain brand or connect to a certain company or not. So it's not that you have to have all the brands and have to sell all the products. You also obviously have the option and the choice to work with a certain vendor or not. But ultimately, all the decisions about products, promotions, territories, which products are sold in which territories, and so on, is all determined by the vendor. Now, as a reseller, you have access to the products. Once a vendor gives you access to their products, you will have 24/7 access to those products, and you can get it for your customer immediately and give it to them. And once you place the order and get the serial number, the vendor then sends you an invoice, and you pay, as a reseller, pay directly to the vendor. So if you haven't received an invoice, please don't contact Exchange and ask for your invoice, because Exchange cannot send you an invoice. Exchange doesn't charge you. Exchange only is the delivery mechanism. Look at it like the post office. Instead of shipping a box from the vendor side and you receiving it in your receiving department, Exchange basically is the delivery company that is between you and the reseller and the vendor. And the vendor has to send you an invoice. So we don't collect on behalf of the vendor. The vendor sends you an invoice and you pay them directly. So again, if you have any questions or problems with products, promotions, prices, invoicing, so on, if it's product or vendor related, please do not contact the Exchange, because we can't do anything with that. You have to contact the vendor directly that sells the product and work it out with them. If you have any technical problems, of course you contact Exchange. If you have any Exchange questions, you will direct it to Exchange. Now, why does Exchange exist? Exchange is fast, it's secure, and it never sleeps. It eliminates shipping costs, so you don't have to receive a box which is probably filled with air and a license number in there, a license code in there, and everything else. Even if there is a CD-ROM, is probably obsolete by the time you sell it to your customer. because there's a new version or a revision that has come out. So you're saving that shipping cost that eats into your margin, usually if you're dealing with physical products, such as a box of software. It eliminates warehousing. There are over 4,000 different software products on Exchange. And now it says 8,000, actually 614 here. But some of the products are duplicated SKUs. So they have educational versions. They have them created in different currencies. So there are actually about 5,000, 4,000 plus, between 4 and 5,000 unique products on Exchange. There's no way you could even have one box of each product in your warehouse. You're going to run out. You can explode your product offerings using Exchange. So these are products that you would never think of that you could even have access to or even order. You can have available to you and your customers now. And of course, those of you that deal with boxed software know that it sits on your shelves, it gets old, there's a new version, you're going to have to now you already paid for shipping to get that into your store. Now you have to ship it back to the manufacturer or the vendor or the distributor and get that upgraded once there's a new update. Now you have to pay for shipping and bring it back. Sometimes this might happen 2 or 3 times because you haven't been able to sell the software. Now by that time, you not only you haven't made any money, you're in the minus. You're actually now bleeding money. You might as well just throw that box in the garbage and forget about ever selling it again, because now you're bleeding money. Now, last but not least, Exchange is green. So some of you might care about that, some of you may not care about that, but Exchange is green. There's no need to ship boxes, all the content that goes in a box and all that stuff that is probably useless to a lot of people. Now, who needs Exchange? Exchange is for resellers that want to generate additional revenues by selling more products. So you might be selling hardware products, you might be selling some software, but very limited number of software because of all the reasons I just told you about. Now you want to add additional revenues in terms of upselling and basically providing complete solutions to your customers who are buying all the other products. So they're buying speakers, they're buying microphones, they're going to need recording software, they're going to need plugins, they're going to need production software, they're buying synthesizers and so on. They're going to need software synthesizers as well to complement their sound banks and their production tools and so on. So these are all upsell opportunities for you to sell more products to your existing customers and to gain new customers. Now, just as importantly, Exchange is for resellers who want to retain their customers. Now you ask me, how is Exchange going to help you retain your customers? Because now you can offer them total solutions, complete solutions. So if they come to you and they want to buy $10,000, systems or equipment, hardware products that you might be selling for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to them, including speakers, microphones, and all kinds of goodies that are hardware based. And you may not necessarily care to carry $100 software. You may not care about making $25, $30 on a $100 piece of software, because hey, you're making $20,000, $30,000, $10,000 on hardware products. What is $25 to you? But to your customer who is asking for that product, who needs that product, who may need that product, and you don't have it because you don't care about it, now they have to go and look for it somewhere else. Now, you'll be lucky if they go to the manufacturer of the product and look for it there. But a lot of times they may go to your competitors who are other resellers and look for that product. And once that customer leaves your store or your web shop to go look for that product in another musical instrument store, that customer may never come back to you because, hey, Maybe they find a friend in that store. Maybe the services are better than yours in that store. Maybe they have products that you don't carry. Maybe this, maybe that. There's a lot of maybes. So maybe that customer never comes back to you. So for a $100 piece of software that you make $25, $30 on, that you don't really care about the software because it's not, quote unquote, which we hear all the time from different resellers. Yeah, software is not a big part of my business. I don't care really about selling software, but they should, and so should you, because it's an important part of retaining your customers. Now, you might have very good customers loyal to you. That too, that will happen, and they will never leave for anything. But there are customers that are not so loyal, and they are always looking for the next best deal, next best person, more knowledgeable sales rep, and so many different things. So I'm not going to beat this more this point more, but it is very important for you to retain your customers. Now, if you don't see Exchange on the screen, you should. I have shared my screen, so you are seeing the actual Exchange portal, the reseller side. Basically, it's when you log in, you have different tabs up here, and each tab allows you to do something or see a certain page, and that has certain information on it. I'm not going to take you through everything because some of them you can explore on your own, but some of the more important things that we do need to touch on will be covered in this tutorial presentation. Now, first off, when you log in, you will have certain information on your front page, and you can see here that you have some promotions, and this is for your enjoyment and information. You have the stats here, but basically going through the housekeeping items, everything is done here in settings. Now you can select your language. You can go to your profile page, and if you haven't completed your profile, it's very important for you to do so. Or if you change anything, if your administrative contact information changes, or if you move, or if you change your phone number, we won't know that until you change this information. So please go ahead and change that information if you do make changes. Or if you haven't completed these pages, please do so, because a lot of vendors look for this information, especially bigger companies. They look for this information before they grant the rights to you to sell their product. So if it's incomplete, they won't be able to make, especially if they don't know you. If you're a big company and everybody knows you, of course, you can get away with it. But if you are in a different country, if you're not a big reseller, if you're not a well-known reseller, then a lot of companies don't know you. Chances they won't know you unless they're local. So they would want to look at this information in order to make an informed decision to make sure that you are legit. Now, we do our due diligence, as you know, to make sure that you are legitimate. But vendors will also want to do their own checks. Now, when you go to your admin password, this is for your administration side. You can change your admin login password in here. And the notifications page is where you receive system-generated notifications from Exchange. So now, general emails go to this person, or if you have multiple people in your company who need to receive this information, you could actually do so and just put a semicolon in between the emails, and multiple people can now receive that email. RMA emails. Now, we don't do, as a rule of thumb, we don't do RMAs. As you know, software is an intellectual property, and once it's purchased, there's no return. There are very, I don't even want to say, I don't know how to say it the best. There has to be an exceptional reason. There you go. There has to be a very good reason for a return, and it does not happen often. And if you get to that point, then we can discuss that. I'm not going to talk too much about returns. But as a general rule, there are no returns on software. So if somebody buys it, they own it. If you make a mistake and you buy it, it's yours. You have to sell it to somebody else. Now, moving on, basically, this is where you create more users. So if you have different people in your company and you want to give them their own login and password, or if you have different locations, this is where you can create by adding new, and you can create basically accounts that will have their own login and password. Now, you got to remember, some of these will be limited in what they can do. So a lot of things you will still have to do from your admin account. So these user accounts can't do everything. But you can create one and just find out what is available to them and what not. And if somebody needs to have access to everything, then you might want to give them the admin login, because they would need that. And we'll talk about integration later. That's not something I want to get into right now. We'll talk about it briefly later, because it is more technical. Now we get to the good stuff. Now, how do you sell products? How do you connect to the different vendors? How do you see what products are available to you, and so on? As you know, initially when you log into Exchange and you go to your price list right here, under purchasing, you go to purchasing, price list, it will be totally blank. So when you see this drop-down menu, there's nothing in there, no vendors in there. It's going to be totally blank. So that means that you have access to nothing. You can't sell anything. You have to connect to the different vendors, and they have to approve you as a reseller in order for you to have access to their products and the pricing. Now, how do you do that? You go to connect products. There are actually two ways of connecting to vendors. The first way is going to connect to products, and then you continue. And now you see all the different vendors that are on Exchange. Now you got to remember that some of these vendors are distributors. So they have maybe 1, 2, 3, 10, 50 different brands or manufacturers under them. So for example, we have Hal Leonard on Exchange, who is a distributor, and they have I don't know how many different brands, maybe 10 different brands, let's say, approximately, that are under them. Music Marketing is another distributor on Exchange, and they have about 50 different brands under them, such as FabFilter, Melodyne, and so on. So, if you see, or you know that a specific vendor is on Exchange, but you don't see them in this list, you got to find out who their distributor is and send a request by trying to connect to their distributor. So what you do is you just click connect, and it just asks you for your name, so we know who sent the request, and your email address and phone number. And basically on their side, on the vendor side, they will see a reseller request coming in, and they will see who you are. And as I said, they will check your setup page to see who you are, what your company is all about, and so on. And once they determine that they want to do business with you, they will accept you, and then, and only then, you will see their products in your price list. Now you could also see reject. They may reject you, and you will see the status here. So if you see here, basically, if it says rejected, you know that they have rejected you, or it might say connected, then you're connected to them. There is a second way to connect to the vendors, and that is if they want to deal with you, just like how you go here to products, you go to connect products, and then you send a request to the vendors. They can also send you a request and send you a request and invite you to become their reseller. And where do you see that information? In your invitations page. So when you go to invitations, you see that all the companies that have sent you invites to become their resellers. Now, if you want to deal with them, you accept. If you don't, Right now, we still don't have reject for this. This is a new site. So what we'll do is eventually there will be a reject here so that you reject as well. But for now, if you don't want to deal with them, just don't accept it. And they won't be able to sell you anything. Or you won't be able to sell their products, I should say. But I don't see why you would do that unless you have a bad history with them. Usually you should not be curating products. You should sell everything that you have access to. You never know when you have a customer that asks for a certain product. So I don't see why you would be picky. You shouldn't be picky. You should sell pretty much anything. Have the Amazon mentality. Yes, it's a little bit of work adding it to your website, adding it to your system, and so on. But once you set it up once, from time to time, if they send you an email, we have a price change, or we have a new product, or we have a product discontinued, then you just act appropriately. But initially you do the work and you generally just leave it there and make the sales. So this is the second way of adding or connecting with the different vendors on Exchange. Now going back to your price list, once you are connected to a vendor, you will be able to see them on your price list. And when you go to price list, for example, I'm going to this Exchange test vendor here and press continue. If you just press continue, you will see all their products and brands. Now, in the case of, for example, music marketing, that's not going to work because you're going to have 800, 900 products, and you're going to be basically lost in the product. So it's always better to go to the brands and pick the brand that the product that you're looking for belongs to. So if for example, you're looking for fat filter, just pick fat filter. If you're dealing with a company that only sells their own products, let's say, for example, you're dealing with Antares, and they only sell Autotune, and they only have the one brand, then it's okay to go and search everything. Or if you're not sure what brand it belongs to, so for example, some of the companies, they may have educational, or they may have this or that, and you have a certain SKU that you're not necessarily sure which brand it belongs to, then you could select, basically get everything. But as a general rule, let's pick the brand to narrow down your search, and you don't see 800 products all of a sudden here. So we go basically to this brand, Paul Test, and you see the product that is created for the purpose of training and testing for these trainings. Now, if this is the product that you want and you want to buy it, you add it to your shopping cart, you click on it, and you go OK. Once you're done shopping, if there are multiple products that you want to buy, you add them to your shopping cart, then you go here, and now this takes us to purchasing, of course. You go to your shopping cart icon right here at the top. You put your purchase order number, PO stands for purchase order, and usually the way that companies work is they make a purchase order in their system first, in their accounting system, and then they put the number here. And then once that purchase order is processed and they have something, then that turns into an accounting document that they can apply a certain invoice to. So now for this purpose, because I don't have a purchase order number, I'm just going to use today's date. And you don't have to worry about hardware number. I'm not going to get too detailed about it, but it's only for companies such as Universal Audio and so on that have hardware products, and they have an Exchange account that sells software products that only work with that hardware product. And right now they're not wide open to all the resellers. Only certain resellers have access to those, and they know how to use it. So we're not going to get into that. But if you do ever have a request from one of these companies that sell hardware and sell the software upgrades for that hardware, then you must enter the hardware number here when you make a sale. And credit card required. Right now it says no. Now what happens is that there are some vendors that may have put you on credit card prepay, and that's done through a secure Stripe account page. What this means is that before you get the serial number, you must enter your credit card. Please do not, under any circumstances, enter your customer's credit card information. This is not for your customer. This is your credit card, the reseller's credit card that has to go in here. So if you are asked to prepay for a certain product, then this will say yes. And then once you process your order, it will take you to a secure page. You enter your credit card information. Once it's processed, then the serial number for that product is released and given to you. Now, there are times that you might be buying from multiple vendors. As a general rule, I don't like doing that, but that option is available to you. So let's say you're buying from music marketing, and let's say you're buying a fat filter product, and music marketing has put you on credit card prepay. And then in that same order, you've also placed an order from a different vendor, let's say from, I don't know, from PreSonus. And they haven't put you on credit card prepay. So if you see that you're required to enter your credit card information, that doesn't mean that it's for all the products. You have to find out basically which products you have to pay on prepay, and it basically says that here. If it's prepay, it will tell you right here in this column. So if you get a pop-up telling you that you need to prepay, enter your credit card information, go through all the products that are in there, and you will see the one that is the culprit. And you know that you're only paying for that product. So don't assume that you paid for everything. It's only for the product that says prepay in this column. The other companies will send you an invoice for their products. And don't say, oh, I already put my credit card information and paid it. No, you didn't. You only paid for the product that said prepay. So now once you know that this is the product that you're buying, and you've passed all the tests, and if you know how many you want of this product, let's say you want multiple of this product. Now, sometimes this is also determined by the vendor. So if you only can buy 5, don't contact Exchange and say, I need to buy 10. Can you change this for me? No, we can't. You have to contact the vendor and ask them to increase this limit for you. Now, sometimes it might be only on 1. It all depends on which vendor it is and how they set you up. And it's totally between you and the vendor to sort this out. It might say 10, it might say 20, it might say 1. But it's between you and the vendor. But if you do have the maximum quantity here, you could technically buy 5 of these products at a time. Now, once you know that this is the right product, this is the right quantity, if you make a mistake here, don't come to us and say, oh, I need to return this. You own it. Don't make a mistake. Now, sometimes some vendors are nice and they may allow you to return it, but essentially, software, remember, is not returnable. So you have to make sure that the price is good. Always double check the price to make sure that you're paying for the right product. If you know there is a promotion and the vendor has told you there is a promotion and you don't see the promo pricing here, do not press process. Before you do anything, delete this, call your vendor, tell them, I don't see the promo, please add me to your promo, and then go back, and if you see the promo pricing, then process the order. Because this will cause a whole bunch of accounting nightmare for everybody, and nobody likes to deal with that. So once you know everything is good, press process. And once you press process, it still gives you a chance to get out of this. If you press OK, now you own the product. Now it's yours. This is what you get. This is what your customer has bought. Now maybe you want to copy and paste this information and format it nicely and give it to your customer. Maybe you want to email it to your customer. Maybe you want to print it on the invoice that your customer is taking. If you have a physical store, the delivery of this product is up to you. But what is important is that you tell them what product they bought, what is the download path. So this is where the customer goes to redeem their product that they just bought, the serial number or voucher code or whatever the customer bought. Each company calls it a different thing. In Exchange, we always call it a serial number. but it's not always a serial number. Maybe it's a serial number, maybe it's a coupon code, maybe it's a voucher code, maybe it's a registration code, maybe it's a PACE iLock code, whatever it is, we call it serial number, but essentially your customer has bought this. They need to know where to go to redeem it and what product it is. And that's what you're giving the customer. And also, it would be a good idea to give them the support contact so they don't contact you if they have any issues. Because let's face it, you can't be providing support for every product. There are, as I said, between 4,000 and 5,000 unique products on Exchange. And there's no way you can be good in providing support for all these products. And don't be contacting Exchange for support. We can't help you either. Please contact the vendor. They are the best people to provide support. It's their product. They know it inside and out. And only they can help you fix any problems that you may have. Now you could export this information to an Excel as well if you need to. But essentially this is your order. Now, if something happens and you get a processing error, do not panic and go back and process the order again. Because sometimes the order might have been processed already, but you get an error message. And then you're going to end up with a double or triple. Sometimes companies, they get, for whatever reason, something is not, something is wrong. I don't know. It might be a browser error. Whatever it is, for whatever reason, they start getting error messages, and they do 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 times because they think the order didn't come through, and now they bought the products 10 times. And that's a huge problem. So before you do anything, if you don't see this page, if you don't see order completed, and you get an error or something happens, or you close your computer or your computer crashes, whatever happens, the first thing you do is you go don't panic, log into your Exchange account, go to purchasing, go down to CCSA right here. This is basically where your orders go initially for a few hours before they turn into an invoice and go to your order history. So go to CCSA and you see that the order is right there. If you don't see it in here right away, and if you go to your order history right here, and you do a search for today, or for the day of the invoice, so basically I just go here, vendor, I know that it's this vendor right here, and it's today's date, and I continue. I probably won't see it right now because there hasn't been enough time for it to turn into an invoice. So it's still sitting in CCSA, but search here first, CCSA. If you see it here, then you know it's there. Now, basically, you can just get this information. You have the license number, you have the download path, support contact, the product name. You have all the information you need. Do not process the order again. But if you don't see it here, the next place, just to be on the safe side, check your order history just in case this order was turned into an invoice. If you don't see it in either of these places, then you know that it hasn't been processed. Now you can go back to your price list and try to place that order again for that product. But do not do that immediately, and always check these two places first. First, CCSA, and then order history. And only if you don't see it in either one of these, then go ahead and place another order for that same product. Otherwise, you're going to end up with multiple products of the same, multiple instances of the same order for the same product. Now, from time to time, you will have promotions that apply to you. It's a good idea because some vendors are very good at letting you know in advance what promotions are available. Some vendors may not let you know. Some vendors may send you an email, and for whatever reason you don't receive it. So it's a good idea to check your promotions tab, go to purchasing, promotions, and always check this on a regular basis to make sure you're not missing any promotions that are for you. Right now there are no promotions that are set up for this test account, but all the current promotions will be atop, right here. Upcoming promotions will be here at the bottom. So if you have a lot of promotions, just scroll down to see what's what and what's now and what's later. And you will see them all in these pages. And again, if you know a certain vendor has sent you information about a promotion and you don't see it in this page, call them, send them an email, basically contact them and let them know that you don't see it. And especially if you have an order for that product, do not process it at the regular price, because now we're going to have to do a whole lot of accounting. Everybody's going to be, you're going to have to do accounting, they're going to have to do accounting, we're going to have to do accounting, and nobody's going to like it. And sometimes there might be administrative fees attached to doing accounting adjustments and so on. So just don't make mistakes. It's, as a rule of thumb, it's not good. So always make sure that you have the correct price product before you place an order. Now comes accounting. For your account, you receive an invoice and your accountants don't know about this. They want to pay it. What they need to do is to go here. They go to order history. So let's say you have received an invoice from Exchange Test Vendor in this case, and it's for let's say for September. So you go to September 1st to September 30th, let's say, and you pick the vendor and you go continue, and you see all the invoices that have, or all the transactions, all the purchases that you've made for that period in your order history. And all you got to do is just click on it to see the details. It opens it up. You see the serial number, you see the vendor, you see the PO number, purchase order number. You see all the information that you need to know to make sure that the invoice that you have received is for the right code, for the right PO number, for the right order number, and so on. And then this is your cost. This is not what the customer is paying. This is what your cost price is. So then you could basically reconcile your accounting stuff and basically pay the invoices as needed. And it's a great idea for you to actually go ahead in this page here. Oops. Excuse me for a second. And fix this. Okay. All right. Going back to order history. All right. I think we are all set. Now you should be seeing order history page again. So that's basically how you get, you can go back as far as you want if you ever need to, and basically to any period of time, and get your a complete history of all the transactions that you've done during that period. Now, this is basically how you use Exchange and what you do on the different tabs up here. Of course, there's a lot more. Please go ahead and explore. So go to the tools, for example, and growth reports and so on, and just check them and see what they do. If you're new, you won't have any history in your growth report. You won't see any charts or anything like that. But after you start doing some transactions, you could see that information. The last thing I want to get into is integrations. Basically, you go to your settings and you go to your integrations tab right here. If you do need to integrate, then the first thing you need to do is download this non-disclosure agreement, fill it out, sign it, and send it to us. And it has to be signed by the account holder of the company. So whoever that signed the contract initially to become an Exchange member, which is usually the owner of the store or the president or basically a managing director or somebody who has signing authority to sign this NDA, send it back to us. And then in the same page, you will have access to all the integration documents. Now, what is integration? Integration means that, we have APIs that you can use in order to automate the sales process on your website, or if you have a storefront in your point of sale software that you use in your store, in order to avoid having to go to purchasing and price list and do all this order stuff manually. So basically everything will be automated. If you're doing it inside the store, basically everything is skewed just like physical products, and you see it in your computer screen in whatever software you're using, and you just press, you can basically sell the product just like a guitar or guitar picks or any other physical item. You pick it, you add it to the invoice, and basically it just turns that into, it does the ordering automatically in the background, and you will see the product immediately, the serial number immediately in your point of sale software. And you can usually print that. Usually the way it works is with the resellers, it prints on the invoice that you print to and give it to your customer in the notes or comments section, and you can give it to them. Now on your website, if you want to automate your web shop, basically we have a custom API that you can use if you don't have one of the more popular e-commerce platforms, or if you have your own system. Basically, we also have plugins or extensions for Magento, for WooCommerce, for BigCommerce, for Shopify, and some of the more basically more popular e-commerce solutions that are out there. And we can provide that information to you, so you could easily integrate your web shop and e-commerce platform with Exchange, so you don't have to do all the manual ordering. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk to you about, especially if you have a physical store, and some of you might have seen this at the beginning before we started the presentation. Basically, I had this running in the background, which is called Exchange TV. Basically, Exchange TV, this is basically created for one of the big chains in Canada, Longa McQuaid. But we can basically customize this for any reseller, once you have it, then your store name will show here, and it will have your local time and wherever you are, and the temperature and so on in your geographical area. And basically, essentially, what Exchange TV is a 24-hour a day, 7 days a week TV program that is sent through basically, it's an IPTV protocol, so it's sent through the internet. What you need is basically, you probably already have a TV that's sitting in your store and either doing nothing, or in some cases, it's playing something from YouTube that may or may not necessarily be the best content that you can play. Or you might need to buy a new TV, but essentially you need a TV in your store, and you need an IPTV box that we can tell you once you sign the NDA. We can tell you what the brand is that you can buy that will work with Exchange TV, and that one is about $200 USD that you will buy, and you own that. You buy that one time, and then there is an Exchange TV license that basically it's about $150 to $200 depending on where you are per year. And if you have certain level of sales, I can't remember what it is. I think it's $7,000-8,000 of sales so far. Exchange will cover half of that for you for the first year, and then from the second year and on, if you have more sales, then we can discuss. But if you basically, for the first year at least, we have a promotion that will pay for half of that license if you have a certain certain threshold of sales on Exchange. And basically, as you can see, it shows about, I think, 2 hours of non-stop videos. It will have all the stats that You can see up here, top bundles, top DAWs, top compressors, top this, top that. And then it has all the different brands that are available on Exchange, and some endorsements right here, hot tips and tricks, and so on. Now, why do you need Exchange TV, especially if you have a storefront? For 5,000 products, there's no way people will know that you have these many products on Exchange available for them to sell. Now, of course, Exchange TV is customizable so that you can only see content for the products and brands you can sell, and it doesn't show everything. So what happens is that even your sales staff, a lot of times, don't know what's available to them. So this is not just for your customers who might come in and see this and start watching and get interested in buying certain products, but it's also for your store staff sitting there, standing around at idle times with no customers, and instead of talking and instead of going on their phones and checking Facebook, they can watch Exchange TV and at least be educated about what's available to them, what the key selling features of these products are, because these videos have been created in a way that you don't need sound. All they have to do is see the interface, see the text that comes in, and they know more about the products that are available to them to sell and how they can sell them and the key selling features. So it's priceless for them. Yes, you might spend, let's say, $300 to $400 in your first year, and then about $150 to $200 after that for renewal fee. However, you make one or two extra sales, it's already paid for itself as a result. But I'm sure that it's going to do a lot more than one or two sales for you. The stores that have implemented this, they're loving it, and their sales have gone up as a result of Exchange TV, and you want yours to go up as well. You want to inform your customers and your sales staff. Thank you very much. This is it for today's presentation. I'm going to now look in my chat box to see if there are any questions that I may answer. Yes, I see that somebody sent the link to forgot password. I don't know exactly what the question is, but yeah, if you forgot your password, please use the forgot password, and somebody will be in touch with you with your new password. And yeah, if you have any questions, I'm going to unmute everybody now, just so that if you could either ask your question, or if you need to type it, you could type your question in there and I will address. Right, somebody's saying the forgot password function is not available. That's because it's a brand new function. This is a brand new site. As if you've used Exchange for a number of months, you know that we are just in the middle of a transition from the old to the new site. Now we've moved all the main functions, or actually I should say for the resellers, we've moved everything to the new site. So there's really no reason for you to go to the old site. But for some of the functions, this password function is pretty new. So right now, if you have forgotten your password, then please send an email to support@exchangemarket.com, and somebody will be able to help you until the password function is functional again. Yeah, if your old password is not working, there might be a couple of reasons for that. If you have been inactive, if you've been on Exchange since 2015 or 16 or 17, and you haven't made a single login, you haven't made a single sale, from time to time we go through the accounts and we close the accounts, idle accounts, to make sure that the system is running faster and better, especially during busy seasons like shopping season and Black Friday. If you haven't made any sales, there's no reason for you to have an account, to be honest with you. And we want to make sure that Exchange is running at its top notch, performance during Black Friday and during the Black Friday season and during the holiday season. where a lot of promotions and a lot of sales are happening. So what happens is that from time to time, every year, just around this time, we start forging some accounts that are idle, that have not made any sales, just to make sure that the system is running smoothly for the ones that are buying and making sales. So that could be one reason, or you might just have forgotten your password, but we'll have to look at that individually. So please send support@exchangemarket.com and email, and somebody will be in touch with you regarding your password and what's happening with your account if you can't get into your account. If you have been rejected by a vendor, you cannot send a vendor request again. You will have to contact them outside of Exchange, and only they have the option to reverse that on their side. We don't want a situation where vendors are bombarded by requests from the same reseller when they've been rejected. So we've made it in a way that there's only one rejection, and then that's it. You can't send that vendor another request. Now, that's unfortunately the way it is, or fortunately for the vendors. No, you can't. So the answer is, if you have already been rejected by a vendor, you cannot send another request. I'm just reading. Yeah, if you have had, the other question is that your password works on the old site but not on the new site. The problem is that the old site was not very sensitive. So if you had, let's say, an uppercase or a lowercase in your password and you made a mistake, it was more forgiveful. The new site is very strict. There is absolutely no, your password must be exactly like the way that it is in Exchange for it to work. So if you entered an uppercase, now you're entering a lowercase, it's not going to work, and vice versa, and so on. So that might be the case in this case, that if your account works, if you can log into the old site but not the new site, then your password is basically you're putting the wrong password, or with an uppercase or a lowercase. So just try different variations, and if it doesn't work, then you would need to contact support right now to reset your password manually. Any other questions? Yes, that's the support email address, support@exchangemarket.com. Okay, I do not see any other questions coming in. So thank you very much for your time. Wherever you are in the world, have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, have a good day, basically, and happy selling. And we are here to help you. We want to see you succeed. So if you have any questions, please, if it's exchange related, please send it to support@exchangemarket.com. And if it's vendor related, please contact the vendor directly. Have yourself a wonderful day. Goodbye.